ready to do life and business on your terms and truly live your big ticket life. You either make excuses or you choose to level up. Amazing guests living the big ticket life. Woo! Woo! Brandon Britton here.
Appreciate you having me here today, man.
It's that kind of discernment, that kind of focus, that kind of forward thinking that's so important if you're going to succeed in business today.
Jeff and I are like friends. We're real friends.
We are and so you unlock fortune and freedom without all the stress that normally comes along with it.
It all comes down to your why. You know, your business, why are you doing it? You know, how is it going to change the world and what's it going to do for your family?
I want you to celebrate your success.
Talk about the struggle, but I promise you, the story is in your struggle.
They'll never be able to say that about me because people only see me working hard in anything that I'm doing whenever they see me.
Focused on your success and the success of those around you.
But being that constant in your community, good or bad, whether things are great in the community, bad in the community, who's steady?
Unapologetically do business and life on your terms and truly live your big ticket life. Amazing guests living the big ticket life. And we discuss how they do it and the big ticket methods they use. The things that make your life successful so you do life and business on your terms.
In and of itself, the only limitations that we really have on ourselves is the ones that we allow to be put on ourselves. And most people don't look at it in that perspective.
There's nothing wrong with being humble, but there's also nothing wrong with stepping into your superpower and letting people know who you are.
Get ready to do life and business on your terms and truly live your big ticket life. All right. Well, listen, Mitchell Tucker, man, I'm happy to have you on the show today. Somebody who's definitely stepping into their superpower as the peaceful savage. Love that. Somebody that's living big ticket methodologies with his own company, his own patents. You've stepped away from the big money equity challenge in life and you went out on your own. And then best of all, you wear like your values on your sleeve, so to say, or your shirt. Maybe you got it tattooed somewhere. Can't quite see, but definitely on your shirt. And then where I want to jump right off, I'm on your website this morning as I'm prepping for our time together. And the little about me page you end with, you're not interested in making friends. You're here for a mission. Right. So I bring you the peaceful savage, Mitchell Tucker, man. Welcome to the show. Let's pick up there. Awesome. What are you most interested in if it's not making friends?
Well, you know, everybody's too comfortable. Everyone wants to stay in the middle lane. No one wants to make any noise. Everyone's too scared to make noise. I fall into a category, and I know a lot of people do, that is often considered the silent majority. And that's what's wrong with our country, right? That's what's wrong with our society, our world. The people who have these crazy ideologies, the people who are screaming from the rooftops, they make the majority feel like the minority, but people get up and just talk and speak their mind and share what they feel and where they stand on things and let people realize they're not alone. I think we would see a bigger impact.
Yeah. Yep. I agree 100% with you. So, you know, we do this as a live stream show, right? You're catching this maybe live right now, noon on Tuesdays, East Coast time on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. If you just search Big Ticket Life, you'll find it. But if you're catching this on audio, which the audio drops the Monday after, you might not be able to see Mitchell's shirt unless you got some weirdo like tech device that we don't know about that can like transpons your eyes through your stereo to the video. But Mitchell's shirt, what do you got on there? It's pro. You read it off. Yeah, there we go.
Pro God, pro family, pro life, pro America, pro gun, offended, peaceful savage.
Love it. That's actually more than I caught the first three in a couple of your photos and in the slide card for this episode. But yeah, I love it. Love it all. You know, so you own a security company, Intact Security.
I do.
You know, the business advice on the street is you don't go around wearing a shirt like that if you own a business.
Right.
So
Yeah,
so
that
what
goes against
gives?
the grain. That goes against the grain. I don't own Intact by myself. It's a family ran business. There's me,
Okay.
actually my mother and my brother. And yeah, they tell you to leave politics. Well, we're trained to not to speak about two things, politics and religion, right? I speak
Mhm.
about both. And because they're very important. You can't be upset when our society and our country loses its morality when you refuse to talk about Jesus. You can't get upset when we're losing our freedoms, but you refuse to talk about politics. They're one
Yeah.
and the same, right? I don't necessarily enjoy politics. It's not my go-to thing. I sit around, I enjoy talking about, but you have to, right? If you're concerned about your freedoms, you're concerned about our society, those two things are a must.
Yeah. 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 We talked in the pre-show. You've got some merchandise on your website, um, Peaceful Savage gear. I too have my own clothing brand line, Signer 57, and really, in bringing that about, bringing that forward. Yeah, there we've got it up on screen. See, this is why it pays to watch the video, folks. You get a whole different immersive dynamic in a podcast when you
Yeah.
add great video on. And I just have to pause here because Chris, my producer at Cast Ahead's fantastic for this, does a great job. You need anything podcasting, you need to definitely connect with him, and his stuff's in the show notes. But in building Signer 57 for me, when you talk about politics, you talk about religion. I mean, really, both in the framework of our Constitution were meant to keep one in religion and one out politics.
Mhm. Right.
Like it's in there. It's right in there. There's you read some of the papers that Washington wrote, some of the things, the quotes that are attributed to him. He says we're a lost nation without a divine compass, right? Meaning God. Uh,
Yeah, and
and
if I was to give strict business advice, not life advice, but business advice, I would say keep politics out.
yeah,
But I can't do that because my conscience won't let me.
right.
I can't just give you if you want life advice, you can't keep it out. You can't keep religion, can't
Mhm.
keep politics out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And one of the things that we're doing, um, we've got a great part, and this isn't a commercial for Signer 57. It's appropriate because it's very connected to what Mitchell's doing. But one of the things that we're doing or able to do in the future is to blow uh, in the fulfillment world. A blow in is called something you stuff in the bag, right? So one of the things we're able to do in the future, and we will do, is put a little pocket constitution. I've been carrying one around for years now. I've gone through tons of them because they just wear out. Um, but within that constitution, if you read it front to back, back to front, and really multiple times go through it, you get a sense. I said there's one thing that needs to stay in for our nation, and one thing that needs to go out, and that's the politicians. You read that, you really understand what they meant and how far away we are. So you can't help but talk about politics because it's such a broken thing. Our
Right.
whole political system, in my belief, is so utterly terribly broken. I'm in Pennsylvania, which it's just an awful state politically to be in right now. We've got two clowns that are running for the Senate. They're both equally bad. We're at the point where evil is the only choice, and there's no more lesser. It's just that's all there is to it. That's my opinion. But
Yeah.
I love how you're leading this. So we can talk about security. We can talk about patents, which is very cool that you have those. Maybe we jump in there. But I do want to touch on your whole peaceful savage movement more because I think it's really important for people to be connected to things they believe in and stop being so afraid of sharing it.
Right.
I
Yeah,
think
I
you could
agree.
agree on that. So,
Absolutely.
so tell me about the patents though, because that's very cool. Like I think in business, that's a
Yeah.
big part of success for people is having something that you definitely can call yours. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, so just to rewind a little bit, and I'll be very brief because this is a long story. I was in law enforcement 12 years, and I I came from a family of entrepreneurs, but I was really driven towards law enforcement. I love law enforcement. I became a cop at 19 years old. I was one of the youngest deputies in the agency. I was carrying a gun, but couldn't even buy my own bullets. And I thoroughly enjoyed my time. I worked undercover narcotics and robberies and did a lot of fun stuff. But I went towards the end of my career, I went to a call that changed my life forever. The lady called. She said, my husband's going out of town, and I'd like a deputy to come show me how I can make my house more secure so that I'd feel safer while he's out of town. And I'll be completely honest, I didn't really want to go to this call, right? It's not a real exciting call, but I showed up and I, yes, ma'am, to no, ma'am, this is what I would do. Put this here, do this. And at the end, she said something that changed my life forever. And I owe this lady everything. She said, wow, the peace of mind you just gave me is worth every bit of $500. And to think the sheriff's office does this for free. Now, mind you, I was there 15 minutes, right?
Right.
So I thought to myself, $500, that's a week's worth of pay for me as a cop back then, right? So it turned on that entrepreneur light bulb. And the reason I say that is because opportunities didn't just start showing up. I didn't have the mindset to see the opportunities. When she said that, something clicked and I started seeing things differently. I started seeing the opportunities as they came towards me. So I created this product. It's a little box, and you plug it in, and within 6 seconds, it protects your entire house with no wire, sensors, or gadgets. And just this one single box. You don't have to put anything on your windows or on your doors or anything like that. And but it was just a prototype, and I needed like a couple $100,000 to get it completely patented and ready to go. I find an investor. Long story short, I pitched it to him a bunch of times. He told me no because I had no skin in the game. You know, he gives me money. I'm a cop. I lose his money. I'm still a cop, right? I didn't lose anything.
Right.
The next day I go in and I quit my job. And
wow.
Yeah.
That's commitment.
Right. And I like bringing this point up too, is when you instill confidence in your significant other, right? Because my wife, everyone's like, what'd your wife think? I was married with 2 kids at this point. I had $2,000 in the bank. It's not like we had a nest egg. We were sitting on a massive savings account, right? I went home. The next day I woke up and I tell her, babe, I'm going to quit my job. And she said, what? Like at first she was a little shocked. And I told her, you know, what happened, what the investor said. And with no hesitation, she said, well, if that's what you want to do, go for it. Because I've instilled the confidence. As long as you are physically well and mentally well, there is zero excuses for you not providing for your family. And my wife knows that I would dig a trench from here to California if that's what I had to do to pay my mortgage, right? Because that's what men do. And because I instilled that in my wife, she had the confidence in me and she said, go for it, right? There was no, well, what about this and what about that? Crush it. So I went in that day. I turned in my 2-week notice thinking that I had 2 weeks worth of work left. I didn't know it's a policy. They let you go same day. They don't want someone that doesn't want to be there with a gun. Now, they did pay me for 2 weeks, which is awesome. But now I'm heading home and I don't even know what to do with my life. I thought I had 2 weeks to try and figure some things out. I called the investor and he said, well, if you can sell me, you can sell an alarm. He invests the money. We took the money. We were able to lock down the patents. And that is a very long story short.
Yeah. So I'm just intrigued. What is this little box thing called?
Well, it's going through, when we first launched, it was called SoniSafe, SONISAFE, but it's going through a rebranding process. Ironically enough, Intact Security, I started with me, my mother, and my brother. And really, maybe in not everyone's mind, but in my mind, it was a way to sustain my income until the product launched and made me a millionaire, right? That was the goal. And I'm still working on that product. It has not launched. And we've done a soft launch. We have, some customers, but we haven't fully launched yet. And Intact has become my main bread and butter. And being able to take the blows and transition and be fluid, that's what entrepreneurship is all about.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, you said something that I let you go. I was going to interject, but I figured I'll come back to it now. Almost every one of these big stories that you hear about, you arriving at creating SoniSafe and getting the confidence of the investor to invest and move forward, and you're continuing to move forward. All of that comes from a place of risk. It all becomes from a place of unwavering belief in yourself and in the idea and in the confidence that you're going to throw everything you've got into this thing and make it work. And then it's almost always even more successful when, as you said, your spouse is supportive, which I
Right.
think is a key ingredient. Yeah, like none of this stuff comes from a place of comfort, right?
Oh, absolutely not. No, nothing great's ever done in comfort.
Yeah, yeah. We always have to be pushing. So, um, you're working on SaunaSafe, going through some rebrands. Yeah, getting to know you a little more in my research prior to the show. I read you were given an ultimatum by is that an equity investor? Is that right? Is that what I read? And you
That was
chose.
the investor in the beginning that I was just referring to.
I
That
got
was
you.
telling me, yeah, you either
So that was the ultimatum.
right. And he didn't necessarily give me that ultimatum. I kind of shortened the story down, but he said, if you send the product to my product testers and they give you the thumbs up, then I'll invest. Right. So I super
Mhm.
glued all my screws in because I didn't have a patent, and I sent it off. Well, they came back and said it's not ready for market, but we think it has potential. It's incredible. I personally believe it could revolutionize the alarm industry. And when he said that, I was like, oh, it's in the bag. Right. So I called the investor and he said, man, I really like you. I like the product, but you almost made me break my number one rule. And at this point, I'm like, just tell me what your rule is so I can fix it for the next guy. Right. Because
Right.
you're a successful guy. You probably have similar rules as other successful people.
Yep.
So he said, well, I
So-
never invest in someone who doesn't have any skin in the game. So he didn't necessarily give me an ultimatum. He just said the reason why he wouldn't invest. And I fixed it by quitting my
Yeah.
job.
Yeah. Well, a couple things to take away there. I mean, you touched on um, one rule for one investor likely is similar to others. So,
Right.
a lesson being pay attention, learn from mistakes, learn from what people are saying, listen. Right, would be the second lesson. Right, like listen to what they're saying. He didn't say go quit your job. He didn't say, well, if I'm going to put, you didn't say this, and I'm saying it. If he put $250,000 in, he wanted you to do 10% at 25. He didn't say that. Just said, I need skin in the game.
Right.
And
Yeah,
however
and
you
it was
could
the
give
only way
that,
I
you
could
did.
prove it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. I mean, that's some two big lessons there for anybody listening to this about listening to what people are saying and then cluing into their actions, because maybe you don't get the sale today. This is appropriate for salespeople. How many times do salespeople hear an objection, they take the L, they don't get the sale, and then they just move on. They don't go back, write that one down, ask a peer, hey, this customer is heading out of left field. I was unprepared. I'll admit it. What would you have done? Like, they don't go back and work that through. It's just on to the next one, right? Like, so many people don't take that time. I just challenged our team this week to work through some of your most recent success sales and then your most recent big no's that you didn't expect, and talk about both and ask, why did it work? Why didn't it work? Very good lesson there you just shared about listening. I really, really love that. So, you this shirt you're wearing and the peaceful savage movement. Let's dig into what the heck do you even mean by peaceful savage?
Right. So this is where I get excited and I find my passion. So where I got the word peaceful savage or the phrase peaceful savage, crazy story, true story. Several months ago, I'm sleeping in the middle of the night. I wake up. It's like 3:00 in the morning. It was in the middle of the night. And the phrase peaceful savage is on my mind. And I thought to myself, what the heck? That didn't make any sense to me, but I thought it was super cool. So I grabbed my phone and I put in my notes, peaceful savage, and I went to sleep. A couple hours later, I wake up for the day and it's the first thing on my brain again, peaceful savage. So I kind of brushed it off. I went about my day, kids to school, work, office, responsibilities, but it kept popping up in my head. And then I had some free time one day and I started thinking, well, I really need to dive into this and figure out what this is. So I go dictionary.com, I type in peaceful. I think I know the definition of both, but I'm trying to do some research here. So I type in peaceful, I read the definition of peaceful, I read the definition of savage. It's still not really aligning 100% for me. I just don't get it. Well, I won't break it down completely from how I got there to I got to the Bible, but there's a Bible verse that says the meek shall inherit the earth. And I don't know if you're a Christian or a believer, but that Bible verse really confused me. In my Neanderthal thinking mind, that didn't make sense. When I thought of a meek person, I think of like this timid little man, and I'm thinking, I know this is really Neanderthal thinking, but if that man tried to take my wallet, it's not happening, right? How is that man inheriting the earth? And I started studying, I talked to my pastor, and what I found was that when the Bible talks about the meek man, it's not talking about this timid little man. This guy's a savage. And what I mean by that, if you can imagine a guy who's like trained with his sword, he can cut down anything in his path. I mean, this guy is an absolute animal at his craft, a savage. But due to his meekness, he leaves his sword sheathed. And I think, wow, peaceful savage. That makes a lot of sense. And I thought about myself in law enforcement and other law enforcement officers. Every law enforcement out there here in America, they have a gun on their hip. Most of them have a shotgun in the trunk, an AR-15 in the car with them. They have the ability to be an absolute savage, right? And cut down anything in their path. But due to their peacefulness, due to their meekness, due to who they are, the only time that gun's going to come unsheathed is when evil pokes its head and they have to go to work and protect others. So they're a peaceful savage. They have the ability, but they keep that under control.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful, and it's a common theme. You and I have learned pretty quickly here. We're very much of like mind, similar belief system, similar value system, and that's very much a theme right now with folks that I know, and I'm sure folks that you know and are friendly with, and friends and even family, to where there's a lot of people who could swing that sword, could take those measures, but just don't, because they are believers on a number of fronts, whether that's belief in their God, belief in their value system, morals, etc. They believe there is a better way forward, and they will continue to work that better way forward for a long, long time. And my hope is that we always work towards that better way forward and never have to unleash the sword. That would be my truest hope, for sure. Because as the verse says, you don't inherit the earth if you unleash that sword, right? That's the way I look at it. But you have also this oath. Talk about this peaceful savage oath and what that means to you, and why are you looking to rally people around these sets of values and around the oath?
Well, it's simple. I love my country and I love my children, and I want to create a better place for them. And the fact of the matter is that the peaceful savage oath, the way it is written, it's actually not that controversial. It's saying that you will always do what you believe is right. Well, what do you believe is right? But I believe that if people listen to that oath, the silent majority listen to that oath, and they sign that oath, and they do it with intentionality and real conviction, not just what's on the other side of this page, let me type in my information. If they actually do it with conviction and intentionality and they live by it, we're going to see a massive change. We can make a massive impact. And that's what I want. I want for my country. I want for my children. And I want for individuals, because I'm a big proponent of personal development. And this is a massive aspect of personal development. Until you're willing to live out your life, who you are, and stop being scared of everything, you're not going to develop to the next stage in life.
Yeah. Why do you feel people are so scared right now?
Well, they're demonized. You look at the news, look at social media, they're so quick to demonize you. You see my Instagram, I don't even really, I post a little bit on there, but I've been shadow banned and threatened, and I don't even mess with Facebook no more. Right. And I don't put anything crazy up there. I really, really don't. Most of my stuff, 90% of my stuff, is personal development type stuff. I want to see people take their lives to the next level. I know I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but I can look back and see where I came from. And that feeling, I want everyone to have that.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's an interesting thought. I'll get you, since you talk about your children in the future. What age are your children?
7 and 14.
7 and 14. Okay, perfect. So, what's happening in schools right now is you're seeing children graduate the K through 12 system less and less prepared for life. We're seeing this bookend of college be expanded, where the average regular degree is now taking 5 years to achieve, not 4. Okay, 5 years. So we're bookending another year of time with I guess we could say young adults. And then here's the other part that's happening is you've got from the federal level, you've got a push to get children into the K through 12 school system at age 3 and 4. Mm-hmm. So we're bookending this experience, and we're not asking this question. And I'd ask you to kind of pick up on it. What's happened, in your opinion, that K through 12 can't graduate functioning adults anymore? Why do we need 2 years on the front and another year, but really 2 on the back? Why do we need that?
Well, look at the curriculum. If you're a parent, I strongly suggest you don't have to be a Christian. You don't have to be a believer. Get your kids out of the public school system and put them in a private school if you can do it. I know it's not everyone can pull that off, but if you're in the position to be able to do it, get it done, because our public school system is going to hell. I mean, I'm blessed here in my area. I don't believe it's quite as bad yet, but you look at some parts of the country, they're more worried about what their kids' feelings than educating the children. They're more worried about how they feel that day and having room. I don't know. It's a mess. We could go into a whole podcast on that, but the certain parts of the country are just absolutely. They've gone insane. Yeah. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'm somebody that's very tuned in locally to local education, local school board, what's happening in schools, the dynamic of your state teachers union and the influence that they have. Interesting stat that I'm still kind of working through, but thus far the hypothesis is true. It was one of these little memes that you pass through online, and then I look at it and I read it and I say, well, that's an interesting statement. Let me see if it's in fact true. So the Department of Education was established in 1980. And since that time, we've not had a single metric, as best I can tell, and I'm still really wanting to continue to dig into this. But your core reading and writing, arithmetic, your 3 core have gone downhill since the establishment of that Department of Education. 1980 is 42 years ago.
Right.
So we have 42 years worth of education in which we're failing in reading, writing, and arithmetic. That's very, very bad. And I think when we look at, you pick up on this. I think when you look at the tenets of what you're trying to create with Peaceful Savage, if we have a core group of now adults to young adults to teenagers who are failing in those 3 core subjects, they're just not equipped to be in a world to succeed. So that fear is almost like ingrained. It's made part of their ethos. It's made part of who they are, because they don't have the basic equipment to go out and succeed.
That's a great point.
You think is that a fair statement? You think that's accurate from your view?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. You're keeping them scared and uneducated, and you can move the masses much easier if you have masses are uneducated and scared, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. We live at a point in time in which there was an actual bulletin put out by the Department of Homeland Security where it said, watch your friends and family who are into canning food. Right?
Really?
Like talk about wanting to keep people uneducated, scared, afraid.
Divided.
Yeah. Like, consider me a terrorist, I guess. I don't know. I met with friends that it wasn't necessarily my thing to do. It was a Sunday afternoon. My Eagles were playing, so I kind of watched the game more than anything. But we all like canned applesauce, like right from the apples out of the bushel to the stove to the press. It was fun. I had a good time to a point. It wasn't like my most fun thing I could think to do, but when you keep people afraid and uneducated, I guess they just look for more cheap and easy stuff like McDonald's and KFC and the dopamine hits that social media gives you.
Right.
So on that note, why don't you pick up there? What's your belief on tech and social media and what it's doing to us as a people, as a group?
I think tech and social media, just like everything, it can be evil and it can be good. If you're in today's society, you got to be involved with tech and social media. I mean, thank God that we have the tech that we have so we can share our message, right? This message right here
Like
wouldn't be
we're doing right
spread
now.
without it's an evil necessity, I guess, if however you want to say it. But because of that tech, we can share our message. I can share the message of the peaceful savage, and I can hopefully change lives and make an impact in our community and our society. But also, if it's not used properly, it can destroy you.
Yeah. 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 You see people spend time just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and points and all kinds of points. I'm going to ask your opinion on this because I think I know where you land, but it's okay if you don't land where I think. So, there's young women online. Specifically, this is somewhat of a long story, so I'll work to keep it short. So in my industry, I've got a retail, one of the business I own, I have a retail mattress store business. We're on the upper end of the product spectrum, high touch service, 5-star experience. We stay away from the name brands. We've done that for the last 5 years. But those name brands, none of those name brands people would ever wear a shirt like you're wearing. Just put it that way.
Right. Yeah.
In fact, they go the opposite side. And one of the recent, now departed CEOs, she was big on empowering women in the workplace, which is fine. That got no issue with any of that. Where my issue is they had recently signed a deal with one of these TikTok, Instagram young women who built a massive audience online as a teenager, prancing around on the screen, very scantily clad. Okay. And I asked this executive, I said, is it this far of a stretch to think that this child has built her payout on flesh? Because that's what it is. It's like bikinis that are just insane for, I think, a teenage girl to be wearing. And is it that far of a stretch to say this is almost a form of sex work that involves a minor? Because audience built on flesh, goods, payout for sponsorship, flesh for money. Like, am I far off on that? I love your opinion.
Where are the parents at? I think that
the parents are in the background in their swimsuits dancing too, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's a society. I think that having a following is incredible. And I think that I need to get better at it. Honestly, I do. I don't like social media, to be honest. I do it because I am passionate about my method. So I do it because I have to, almost to an extent. With that being said, if you enjoy it, that's even better, because the bigger following you have, the bigger impact you can make. With that being said, there is absolutely zero excuse for a young girl dancing around in a bikini on social media with a bunch of pedophiles subscribing and following. I mean, I'm not saying everyone who follows her is, but I guarantee you, if you were to go through her follow list, you're going to find a lot of things you don't want. And
100%.
It's not okay. It's not okay.
Yeah.
That's it's prevalent too.
Yeah. Yeah. And just for the folks out there listening, watching, if what we just touched on starts to like make you feel uneasy, you want to lash out. Oh, these guys don't think women belong in our society or anything like that. Furthest from the truth. If you look at my show intro, I had a fantastic four participants in a show highlighting their event that they did, and they're badasses, every one of them. But every one of them also would encourage their female counterparts to say, you don't have to go shake your ass to be successful in this world.
Absolutely.
You can lead from the front with your ideas. And one of them at the time was a coach of mine. So let's just put that in place before anybody wants to start saying any nonsense. Not that I much care.
Right.
right? So you talked about pedophiles. You said, look at these girls' list. Likely there's pedophiles on there. One of the charities, that was a hell of a transition, wasn't it? Just
Yeah, it
drop the
was.
P
It was
word right
perfect.
there, right? Like we're just gonna go for it. Um,
Yeah. I'm sorry, I might have got you blocked.
but you said, yeah, I mean, the world's a dangerous place, it's a scary place. Technology does enable that for this issue a lot. You're connected, very passionate about a charity, Veterans for Child Rescue. How'd you get connected there? And then you got an even deeper connection with the gentleman who founded it. So let's talk about that. Give them some shine for the efforts that they're doing.
Absolutely. Veterans for Child Rescue, v4cr.org. I would never put my name on something that I don't believe in 100%. I've met the founder. I've met all the people in charge at the top, and incredible people, incredibly passionate. The guy who founded it, Craig Sawman Sawyer, he is a Navy SEAL, or was a Navy SEAL, was on SEAL Team 6. Just an incredible family. And their mission is to educate and eradicate child trafficking. And the stats on this are absolutely insane. I believe it's 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys in America will be thrown into this before they're 18 years old. And those statistics are what's reported.
Right.
I was in law enforcement a long time. Most stuff goes unreported.
So
the numbers are so crazy that they don't even seem real, but they are.
Right. Like, so let's just pause there, because you said 1 in 4 girls, 1 in 6 boys will be thrown into this. Are you saying 1 in 4, 1 in 6 children are actually sex trafficked, or have been threatened, followed, connected to the sphere of it all?
Some form of trafficking. So trafficking is not just sex trafficking, right? There's labor. There's actually organ harvesting. I mean, this is some dark stuff, and it's not easy to talk about or fun to talk about. But this is Craig said something to me, and this is what really got me to where I got to do something. He said to me, if you're walking on a sidewalk and you saw a little boy being hurt, and we'll just leave it at hurt, right? If he's being hurt and he's crying out for help, would you help? Well, absolutely. That guy hurting him would never walk again, right? That's my thought. Okay, now you're walking down the sidewalk and there's a sheet. You know what's going on. You can hear it all, but you can't see it. Would you move the sheet and help? Well, absolutely. Count me in. Okay, you're walking down the road and he's in a soundproof box. You can't see in and you can't hear in, but you know it's happening right there. Do you do anything about it? Absolutely. Well, statistically speaking, in your city, that is happening right now. In your city. Why aren't you doing anything about it?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. We, where my retail store is, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, it's largely known for the Amish, right? Amish countryside tourism is a big draw in Lancaster County. Actually, $1 billion worth of tourism on Lancaster County. So big area you wouldn't think. For my retail store, we do a weekly podcast, a community focused podcast, and we highlight nonprofits pretty much exclusively on there. And I'll never forget, it was North Star Initiative. They help with women in sex trafficking, and what you shared. I never heard that 1 in 4 number. That really kind of gave me chills, and the 1 in 6 number for boys. But yeah, right there in Lancaster, right on the main artery, like you say, that soundproof box. You can't see it, can't hear it. That main artery where you go and you eat the Pennsylvania Dutch food, and you get the family photographs at Dutch Wonderland. Right down the street in the hotel, they're sex trafficking ring, women in seedy hotel rooms just being prostituted out. I mean, this stuff happens in your town. So what Mitchell's saying is 100% true. If you're passionate about stopping this and doing something, that site again was V4CR, V number 4CR.
Yeah, v4cr.org or vetsforchildrescue.org.
Yeah, there we go. Just for anybody listening. Yeah, that's a pretty, that's just a shocking number. That really hit me hard.
Well, there's one last thing on that. They did a documentary called Contraland. You can find that. I believe it's contralandmovie.com. But if you go to V4CR, you can find it. the documentary is called Contraland, and it will blow your mind. They ran some ads like they were selling girls, and the amount of responses that they got in just a day would blow your mind. And we're not even talking about in a high trafficked area like Texas, California, or Florida. Those are the top three.
Right.
So yeah, definitely check it out. Check out that Contraland movie. It's not easy to watch, but it's a necessity. It needs to be spread far and wide for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're connected to the founder, and I'm sorry, the founder's name again, Craig. Was it Craig?
Yeah, he goes by Craig Sawman Sawyer. Sawman's his nickname, and that's how a lot of people know him.
Yep. So how did you get connected to Craig? Because he's writing the foreword of an upcoming book. How'd you get connected to him?
Yeah, so I actually TikTok. My wife, and this is the thing about social media, right? I can't stand TikTok, to be honest.
Yep.
But it is so.
I'm not there yet.
It's so valuable, right? I can release a video on other social media platforms and get whatever X amount of views. I released it on TikTok. I did a video the other day, got 2.7 million views. Right. Wow. My website exploded with traffic. So it's valuable to be on it. Well, my wife is a much more into TikTok than I am. She's got a pretty decent following on there. And she met a guy who is creating a page for Vets for Child Rescue so that they can get the word out more because they weren't on that platform yet. So she met him through that. We started volunteering. We went to Texas and did a nonprofit or a fundraising event for him, celebrity softball game, and we've volunteered and helped out with him a couple times. But it all started with TikTok. Really, that's how I met him. And then I was blessed to meet him in Texas and get to know him and talk to him. I knew about him before this, right? I've read up on him and I followed him on social media. So it all worked out pretty perfect. And I was honored to meet him. He's a great guy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wild. TikTok of all things, huh?
Right.
So yeah, I'm not there yet. You touched on how social media it's a double-edged sword, right? Good side, bad side of it. Yeah, I mean, I struggle to build a business on these platforms because of the things we know and the things we suspect. And you said you've been shadow banned, and you can see moments in time in your analytics where it spikes up and spikes down inexplicably, right? And then there's no explanation for it. The funny thing is, as we're talking about this, I just switched over in the backstage feed. So we're talking about we talked about a number of topics that would bring up a bot that would be, because it was blocked, but I'm just going to say it out. So sexfind.xyz. Here's what's interesting about tech, right? Is tech can throttle canning supplies ads to people that might want to can their own food, right? Because it's dangerous, according to certain bureaucrats in our nation. But big tech won't boot a bot or do anything in their tech programming or algorithmic layout to stop sexfind.xyz.
Right.
Now, I find that really interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. Absolutely.
Because obviously the bots picked up the audio. We weren't typing anything out. Chris wasn't making any title cards with any of those words in it, right? So obviously, now this is even peel back another layer of the onion. The audio transcription to algorithmic input to output to post that link. That's how that works. That's an interesting fact.
It is. Yeah, that goes above my level of understanding how it works, but it's crazy. You almost feel like they're listening to you. You get done talking about buying your kid a bike, you jump on Facebook and there's bikes.
Yep.
It's wild.
Yeah, exactly. So, just know that parents out there, just know that if your kids are talking about something other than bikes related to the sites I just referenced, it's happening because it just happened here in this show. You didn't see it in the video play because we got a great producer and he blocks it out as it's come in the format, but it's there. And there's another one I'm just not going to say. It's real interesting little dynamic here live in real time in this episode as we're talking. But, as we look to wrap up. So you're writing the book. Do you have a title of this new book?
Yeah, the book is called The Peaceful Savage. And
Love it.
I wrote a book right before COVID hit called Mentally Tough and Weak Society. This is the first book I wrote. And I was blessed. It went #1 on Amazon. And I found a passion for speaking. I started getting phone calls and people reached out to me, asked me if I wanted to come speak. And I found out that I was truly passionate about sharing the message of mental resilience. And I really enjoyed it. Then COVID hit and everything died down and the speaking engagements canceled. And we all know how that goes. This is the second book called The Peaceful Savage. And this is the one that Craig said he'd write the foreword for me. So I'm excited to have him on it. And if you like what I've said so far and you're interested in personal development, taking your life to the next level, then I suggest you check it out. If you sign the oath at psoath.com or peacefulsavageoath.com, if you go to that website and you sign the oath, then we'll notify you when the book gets launched.
Yeah. Yeah, love it. I love everything you're doing with Peaceful Savage. This was a really refreshing bit of time. Certainly took some turns I don't normally take with podcast guests, but you're not the average podcast guest either.
Right.
So I love it, man. Love everything you're doing. So peacefulsavage.com, psoath.com, ways to get a hold of you. You've got your book coming out. When's the book release?
It's supposed to be launched around mid-December.
Okay. Yep. Is that going to be Amazon as well?
Right. It will be on Amazon. Yeah, the ebook and paperback.
Yeah, very good. Very good. So you can go there, check everything out that Mitchell's up to, peacefulsavage.com, psoath.com. Sign up, take the oath. You'll get notifications on the book. Look, you may not agree with everything that Mitchell's throwing down, but I'm telling you, there's a lot there that I think you can connect to more than not. And that's okay. We don't always have to agree 100% on everything, but we can agree on doing our best. That's for damn sure. We can agree on being committed to each other and ourselves, right?
Right.
So I'd ask you to go check out everything he's doing. I've really enjoyed our time together. Any parting words for anybody wanting to get to know you better through Peaceful Savage?
No, I really appreciate your time on here. I just like to once again push the aspect of mental resilience. If you're on here and you're trying to crush something, you're trying to do something, you can't fail if you don't quit. And that's the aspect of mental resilience. What's the secret to being mentally resilient? What's the secret to being mentally tough? There is none. There's no magic pill. There's no 8-step wonder. There's an alarm clock. There's a gym, and there's a mindset. That's it. I really enjoyed my time, and I hope you guys got something out of it.
Yeah, man. I enjoyed it too. Yep. Thanks for being on the show. I had a great time with you, Mitchell. Check out peacefulsavage.com, and we'll see you next week on The Big Ticket Life. Take care.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode of The Big Ticket Life. You've heard from another amazing guest living their own big ticket life, and now it's time to live yours. First, I'd love for you to take me up on my free gift to you. Claim your gift at gift.thebigticketlife.live. That's gift.thebigticketlife.live. See, all your life you've been told what is and what isn't possible by the loudest voices from the cheapest seats. It's time to finally do life and business on your terms. Sure, you've heard similar things, but without clarity on what can be done, it's easy to have your customers, employees, maybe even partners, and your spouse keep you from truly living a big ticket life. My big ticket methods shift you into that investor seat in your business, away from commodity and away from competition, into a market of one, so you can finally live your own big ticket life. So my gift to you is for you to book your discovery call today, where we'll uncover first the Chivo behaviors, those chief everything officer behaviors that hold you back, and why moving into the investor seat in your own business is critical. 2, we'll uncover the premium position that's up for grabs right now in your market that you're missing out on. And 3, which big ticket methodologies are just waiting to be dropped into your business to explode your sales and profits. So again, thanks for listening to this episode. I'd love for you to take action right now. Accept this gift. Book your call. Go to gift.thebigticketlife.live. Again, that's gift.thebigticketlife.live.